Hi, welcome to Comptroller's Corner. I'm your host, Pat Curry, joined as always by Buffalo Comptroller Mark Schroeder. Our top story today, Comptroller Schroeder will be going to the bond market this week to borrow $33 million that will be used to fund the city's capital projects. Now, Mark, this sale will be conducted through an open bidding process,
Right.
which means banks and investors will be competing to offer the city of Buffalo taxpayers the best rate possible.
Right. The way that this works, municipalities, in this particular case, Buffalo, we will issue $25 million worth of bonds. And so then the $25 million is for infrastructure needs and for capital projects in our city. The $25 million worth of bonds, because the $33 million there's a bond and then there's a ban, which I'm sure you'll talk about. But for in terms of the issuance for the $25 million bond, there are investors who will purchase the bonds. And so I want to make sure that the citizens of Buffalo know that we've done our homework. We've identified who the potential investors are. I went to New York City about a month ago. We talked about it on one of our previous shows. I went to the Yale Club and I was in a room full of municipal analysts and explained to them the Buffalo story, giving them a reason to invest in bonds for Buffalo. And Patrick, as you know, with the marketplace, the world marketplace, there's a lot of concern with what's happening with Russia and Ukraine and other places. Municipal bonds, muni bonds are something that would be very safe and something that would work for potential investors. So we're very confident we're going to have a very good day coming up soon. And
you've been using your website to communicate the financials of the city of Buffalo and the economic news to these investors and let them know that it's a great time to invest in Buffalo. And you've actually set up an investor relations website where they have a one-stop shop for all the information, including the rating reports from Fitch, Moody's, and Standard & Poor's,
right.
The CAFR, the PAFR, and all the latest news, including the S&P upgrade that we talked about in the last show.
And so obviously, you know, when I went to New York, I verbalized this, but you're right. We're very proud of our website, and on the website, you can go on instantly and you can see the story, and so we're very proud of that, and we think that's going to lead to a good day. Also, from a historical standpoint, it's very interesting to me. The very first bond ever issued was in New York State. It was actually by New York City, and it was for the Erie Canal. And so it's interesting how 200 years have gone by here, and we're still involved in a similar process. And because of our history, we're able to tell a great story. But Buffalo is just not viewed now on our history or laurels or the industrial past, but everything that's taken place here in our city right now. That's the message that we put through verbally in New York City with me and on the website that we articulate every day.
Now, the investment in debt division of your audit handles that, and that division is headed up by your investment in debt officer, Gregg Szymanski. We actually took a visit with Greg and talked to him about this upcoming bond issuance as part of our Meet the Management Team segment on the show. So stay tuned for this special report in an interview with Gregg Szymanski. Now, Greg, one of your main roles is to prepare the city for a $33 million debt issuance that will be happening this April. Tell us a little bit about that process and how this funding will be used to fund capital projects for the city.
Okay, Patrick, this April 16th, we're going to the bond market with a $33 million bond sale. $25.6 million is in serial bonds and another $7.4 million in bands.
Now, ban is a bond anticipation note, which is a shorter maturity than a real bond, and it has a lower interest rate as a result.
Exactly. I mean, it's a one-year note, which can be rolled over 5 times, 5 years. And we anticipate interest rate to be 0.33%.
Now, that number you have was the interest rate that you got on your bands last year, which is 1/3%, which is considerably less, about 1/10 of what you would get if you went for a regular bond, correct?
Yes, it's a fantastic rate. I mean, it's probably as low as you can possibly get in today's market.
Now, there are going to be several investors and banks openly competing and putting in bids, and the city actually will get the lowest bid and the lowest interest rate from all these banks competing against each other to get the city and the taxpayers the best deal possible.
Yes, I mean, we're anticipating 7 to 8 bidders on the bond sale, and we're projecting an interest rate just north of 2%.
Now, this bidding process happens very fast, but the lead up to it is not so fast. That takes months and months of preparation by you and your team. Tell us a little bit about that process and when it starts and how it is administered.
Okay, when the council and the mayor approved the capital budget around the middle of December, that gets the ball rolling on this bond sale. And my department then starts evaluating the projects, collects information from the various departments that are requesting the funding.
You complete a review of it in order to determine whether it's shovel ready so that the taxpayers don't waste their money on interest costs, correct?
Yes, we look at all the information, the spend downs, to determine when the departments need the money, so the money is available for them, and we don't have go to the market for projects that aren't ready.
So if a project is not quite ready, you'll put that aside, and maybe we can borrow for that next year when it is ready, so the city's not incurring all these unnecessary interest costs because the discrepancy between how much it takes to borrow money is a large difference than what it would be sitting in a bank account earning. For instance, if we were to borrow for something at 3%, we're only getting about 0.1% in sitting in a savings money market account.
Yes,
correct?
currently we're getting about 10 to 20 basis points on our money market accounts where this money would be housed. And so, as you can see, our earnings are far below what we would be paying out in interest costs.
So the first time this process went through like this, it was last year, where you did a band sale, and as you mentioned, it was 1/3% you earned your money on. And then projects that didn't quite make the cut or weren't ready to go are borrowed for at a later date. Some of those projects now are in this year's bond sale, some of the projects from last year and the projects from this year. That's why it's $33 million issuance, correct?
Yes, I mean, we're financing a majority of last year's projects with the bond sale, and any remaining projects from this year and last year will be funded by the bond sale.
And if a project isn't quite ready and it's not borrowed for at this time, but it becomes ready before the next bond sale next year, there's other ways like interfund loans other financing options that you can to get the money out on the street.
Yes, the departments can request an interfund loan with the comptroller, and he would sign off on it, and after a couple weeks the money would be available through regular city funds, and then we would borrow for that money next year.
Now, in addition to seeing which projects are ready to go and seeing which projects are able to be borrowed for at this point, you also have to prepare a lot of information for investors to look at. It's called, it's a very large document. It's called the official statement, and it includes a great deal of information about the city, its school district, the economy, the finances, and as you can see, about 300 pages worth of information. And you're in charge of putting this together and working with our financial advisors and making sure all the information is accurate so that the people know what they're investing in.
Yes. My department collects and coordinates all the information that goes into that document, and then it gets forwarded on to the financial advisor for final review after months of preparation and distribution to prospective bond buyers.
Now, the day that the sale occurs, as I said, there'll be investors and banks competing for the lowest bid for the city and the taxpayers. But that's not the end of the work for this process. It's really a year-round task, because after we borrow the money, you and your team are tracking to see how the money is being spent, if it's being spent in a timely manner, and all of that information is put into a report called the Comptroller's Estimate Report, correct?
Yes, we examine the various projects, see where they are in spend downs, see how much money is remaining, and that goes into the estimate and report. And then we communicate with the departments that there's money available. How are you going to spend it? To get these projects moving forward. And
that actually helps you for the next round of bond issuances, because you can see how they did spending the money and use that as a base of an example of how they would spend the money in the future, correct?
Yes. If there's money available in a certain project and they're asking for additional money, we would ask them to spend the
money that's available
money
before borrowing and incurring unnecessary interest costs.
Yes.
So that is a major part of your job, the bond issuance and the debt of the City of Buffalo, but you're also the debt and investment officer for the City of Buffalo. So the other half of your job is to manage over $300 million in the city's investments in various bank accounts and other types of holdings, correct?
Yes. I mean, currently we have over 60 bank accounts with 5 different banks: First Niagara, JP Morgan, M&T Bank, 5 Star, Bank of America. So this money is earning, less than 20 basis points. So we have looked for other ways to enhance our investment revenue.
And the other ways include what are called RANs, or Revenue Anticipation Note, or TANs, Tax Anticipation Notes, where actually you're lending other governmental money in anticipation of them receiving some revenue or tax revenue, and in return they pay you back completely and add interest. And you're able actually to increase the city's rate of return on these innovative investments, correct?
Yes. The first thing we had to do was update our investment policy, which hadn't been updated for over 20 years. It was probably prepared on a typepwriter.
I think Comptroller Bob Whalen in the 80s was the last one to update the investment policy. Now, you took this old 25-year-old document, I guess you had to retype it because it was on a typewriter, but you also updated it to include some of the investments that the 21st century banking world uses, and you used the state controller's guidelines as a guide for you to develop a new investment policy for the city, correct?
Yeah, the state controller issued an investing and protecting public funds, government fund guide, and that really outlines what your investment policy should look like, what investments are available for municipalities to use, like money market accounts, CDs, treasuries, and as you mentioned, RANs and TANs of other municipalities and school districts, and a new investment, which is a reciprocal deposit program. And so we incorporated those into the investment policy, updated it, and it was approved by the council.
So that reciprocal program that you mentioned, that actually allows banks, because of the collateral requirements, it allows banks to work together to provide enough collateral and then in return give the city a better rate of return on their investments.
Yes. The banks, we would send our money to one bank, they would in turn send it out in blocks of $250,000 or less, which is the FDIC insurance level. So all the city's money is fully FDIC insured, protected under this program.
And so basically you only look at safe investments for the taxpayers to make sure that their money is safe and that we're not going to lose out if the market fluctuates in any way.
Yes,
correct?
That's one of the key guidelines to the investment policy is first legality and then safety.
Now, I want to get back to the RANs and TANs. The first one of these transactions you did was with the West Seneca School District, and you were able to increase the rate of return in the city's investment by double in that particular transaction, correct?
Yes. I mean, last August, we invested in the West Seneca School District TAN.
Tax anticipation note?
Yes, which was a $9.9 million deal. That was 82 days, and it doubled our rate of return that we would have received on our money market account.
Okay, and then you went out to the market for another revenue anticipation note with the Curious Joel District in Orange County, correct? And this increased the rate of return by 5-fold for the city, correct?
Yes. I mean, that was a $4.1 million deal, and it was a little bit longer deal, 11 months, and we like you said, we're going to earn 5 times what we would have had in the money market account.
Now, Greg, you come from the private sector, and you're a certified public accountant. How has your private sector career helped you in your new role as the investment and debt officer for the City of Buffalo?
Patrick, in public accounting, the firm I worked for focused on not-for-profit and government accounting, which provided me with a solid foundation to move into my position in the city government, because obviously it's a governmental organization. So that in addition to working with many clients allowed me to gain experience and confidence in working with a number of people, different types of people, and this has also helped me with my experience in city government.
But the role of government is quite different than the private sector world that you came from, right? There's different challenges and different opportunities, correct?
Yes, I mean, my position with this, as an investment debt officer is much more focused than what I was used to in the past. In my previous job as a financial director of a not-for-profit agency, I was in charge of the overall financial operation of the organization, the agency, and obviously now I'm mostly focused on banking, investments, and debt.
So, now, Greg, you were born and raised in Buffalo, and many people your age might have left town for other opportunities. You are now in charge of a major project that helps put capital funding on the street in order to revitalize Buffalo and get Buffalo the best return on its investments and make sure that we pay the least interest we possibly can to fund these capital projects. So you're working towards a revitalization of Buffalo. How important is that into providing an environment where your daughter doesn't have to leave town to find other opportunity, correct?
It's very encouraging that with all the development in the medical corridor and the waterfront and the harbor center, that this will allow my daughter the opportunities, employment opportunities to stay and live in this area. You know, like you said, in the past, many people had to move out to find, employment opportunities. And, the current statistics suggest that there's more younger people moving back into the city, which is very encouraging.
Well, Greg, thanks for joining us in Comptroller's Corner, and thanks for your service to the city of Buffalo.
Thanks, Pat.
Well, Greg is certainly on top of his game as far as this bond sale goes. Now, Mark, you hired him. He's a certified public accountant, and he's done a great job looking over the city's investments and the debt issuances.
Yeah, he's been with us for, I'd say, probably around 15, 16 months. And you're right, Patrick. I've mentioned many times on this show, when I first became the controller 27 months ago, there was only one certified public accountant on staff. We now have 7. Gregg Szymanski is one of them. He heads up a division. There are 3 divisions within the controller's office: accounting, auditing, debt management. This is essential when we go to the bond market, when our depositories with the banks that we do business with. This is his department, and those folks who work in that department, it's very, very important what they do. And so we're very, very proud of him, even though he tells me he's shy, so I'm sure he did good on the show. But what he does every day is to manage the bank accounts, to manage the portfolios, to manage when we go to the market for an issuance of this magnitude. We need to have somebody who really understands what to do, follows up, and understands the attention to detail. And we're very, very proud of him.
Now, you and Greg also joined other members of your team at a recent convention of the Government Finance Officers Association in Albany. This is an annual event, and it provides an opportunity for on-the-job training where you can learn about the new items that are coming out in the accounting world and the government finance world. And there's many seminars that help educate our workforce to make sure that they're up on the latest and greatest developments in the field of accounting and government management.
Yeah, it's like it's a convention. In this particular case, it's a financial convention. So somebody who wants to go to the convention center for a car show or a spring show, you know what you're going there for. Financial people from across the state, they know why they're going to Albany or wherever these sites are across the time of the year. And these things are very important. We have picked up 2 very important things. The first time we went to the GFOA, we figured out that there is software for the CAFR, which is the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. And we found it at the GFOA, and it's an opportunity that will enhance our financial reporting system. We found it there at the GFOA, so it's worth going. And then as we've introduced here recently, the PAFR, which I call the People's Report, it's a report that is something that everybody can understand. We actually picked that up at the GFOA. So those are 2 things just within the last 2 years that we've picked up that has made a big difference for us in the Comptroller's office and how we try to communicate with the public so that they know what we're doing.
And also, it's an opportunity to give the message of Buffalo's financial strength because the rating agencies were there and the investors were there, and other municipalities from around the state were there, and it's a way to get the word out there that it's a new day in Buffalo, and there's a lot of going on.
No doubt about it. And there's tremendous presenters who go to that convention. The state comptroller, Tom DiNapoli, was there, and he offered his view on many of the insights and initiatives that his office is working on. There's guest speakers there's guest speakers who come from Washington who kind of talk about the federal regulations, and so there's a number of things, both from a federal, state, municipality perspective that's very helpful to financial officers from across the state.
Now, switching gears, you come from a private sector background. You spent more than 2 decades as a vice president of a juice company, and you were very involved in the private sector, and you recently visited with the Buffalo State Small Business Development Center, just to see what their efforts are in trying to encourage and foster cultivate an environment where small businesses can thrive and grow and add jobs.
The executive director is Dr. Sue McCartney. She's been there for some time. And her office, the Buffalo State Small Business Development Center, is right in the center of Buffalo State College. And Buffalo State College is integral to her success. And so I actually went there and had a meeting with her and several other professors who were talking to me about different projects and different things that they're working on in the Buffalo area, all having to do with entrepreneurship, helping people who want to invest within the city of Buffalo. And as you know, Patrick, Governor Andrew Cuomo has had several initiatives, and there are several opportunities within Buffalo. So it's an opportunity. They invited me in just to have a conversation, seeing that I was in the private sector for so long and that I served in the Erie County Legislature. I served in the New York State Assembly. I'm now elected within the city of Buffalo. They felt we could have a very good exchange, and I thought that we did. And the bottom line is that we just want to be able to communicate and help those businesses. So if there's anybody out there who's watching this show, if they have interest in establishing a business within the city of Buffalo, and if you don't know how to get a hold of Dr. Sue McCartney, I would encourage you to call the Comptroller's office, and we certainly can link that up so that you'll be able to get the information that you need.
Because really, small businesses are the backbone of the economy and take up a large portion of the workforce, work for these small businesses, and that helps the economy grow.
It's a majority number. The small businesses that are operating in our state, it's a majority number of people that go to work each and every day. So I think we should help them, and we should continue to give them the resources that they need to help people within our city in this particular case.
Now, speaking of small businesses, you started the Greater South Buffalo Chamber of Commerce more than a decade ago in order to help small businesses and link small businesses with the block clubs and the government agencies and the not-for-profits. They just had their recent awards dinner at the Knights of Columbus. You were in attendance for that, right?
Yeah, they're very gracious to me. I was the founder, and we were involved with it for so long. And so that they always invite me and they give me a role to play during their installation and during this dinner. 12 years ago when we started them in 2002, Sue McCartney, I don't know if she was a PhD then, from the business council in here at Buff State College, was very instrumental, and she swore in all of the officers. So it's funny how this all kind of circles together and all kind of works together. But the Greater South Buffalo Chamber of Commerce is a group that is very helpful to 7 neighborhoods, especially the older neighborhoods within and around the South South District. And when I go to different places, like next week I'm going to Bailey Avenue Business Association. I've been to the West Side. I've been to North Hurdle. And I often talk about some of the things that the Greater South Buffalo Chamber of Commerce does just to help these organizations so that they can maybe take it to the next level. Because, again, these are businesses that are operating within the city of Buffalo. It's tough to do. Some of the business districts have gone to sleep because of the malls, and we need to figure out a way to help them. And that's why I enjoy being involved with that particular dinner last week.
Now, it's coming up, Easter's coming up, but of course, along with Easter, the day after is Dingus Day. Now you like to participate in some of the activities that happen at Dingus Day, don't you?
Yeah, it's so great. Patrick, it is so great being in this city. Many of the churches that operate on the east side, they will call this upcoming Sunday Resurrection Sunday. Others call it Easter Sunday. And then in Ireland, the next day is called Easter Monday. But not here in Buffalo. It is called Dingus Day. And Dingus Day is incredible. It's an opportunity for the Polish Americans to really have fun with their culture. And it's an opportunity for all people to come together and have fun, and all of the money that's raised goes back into these Polish cultural organizations to keep their tradition alive, whether it's the Polish language, dancing, the Adam Mickiewicz Library, which has Polish manuscripts on the second floor. These are important things about who we are. And if you can go out and have a bunch of fun and participate in the parade around the old train station on the east side of Buffalo, it's just a great day, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
It's really one of those days where everybody's Polish on Dingus Day, just like they're all Irish on St. Patrick's Day.
It's just so much fun, and during the course of the day, I'll be judging Polish sausage at the Adam Mickiewicz Library, and so it's just, you can't make this stuff up, right? So it's just fun, and I encourage Buffalonians to really embrace this holiday and to have fun all over Erie County, especially on the east side of Buffalo, coming up on Dingus Day.
Well, Mark, that's all the time we have today. Thanks for joining us here on Comptroller's Corner.
Okay, thanks,
and
Patrick.
Thanks at home for joining us on Comptroller's Corner. Make sure to check out the City of Buffalo website and our Twitter handle, as well as our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. On behalf of Mark Schroeder, this is Pat Curry, signing off.